Andrew, is that glow I can see? The 25-1 winner yesterday.
It's about time. My position in the Racing Post Nap table is not quite as embarrassing as it was at this time yesterday. So yeah, that was Yorkshire Lady at Windsor last night. I put it up and put her up on my column. It's what I call a TOY bet, time of year. 4 from 4 in September now. Always wins fourth or fifth time out every season. This was the fifth run of the campaign. Sent down south by Mick Easterby, a stable that doesn't have many runners, the likes of Windsor, and probably panned out fortunately in that the high draw turned out to be an advantage as they went across to the far side in the straight. But it's one of those ones where she was 11-1 the night before, 22s 20s in the morning, SP 25-1. Betfair SP was 34. So it's one of these ones you can see, you can make the case for it. You think, I went to bed thinking, yeah, the 11-1's okay, I suppose, and then might get a bit bigger, and then what you can see, somebody else hasn't seen, and the market's gone in a different direction. Normally, when I pick a decent price winning nap, it ends up getting back from sort of 16s into 8s, or 8s into 7-2. So you think you're going to have a launch up the table, and you end up sort of climbing one place. So I'm still minus £12 for the season, so I shouldn't get carried away with myself. But having been minus 50 odd and bottom of the table or second bottom of the table for much of the current season, it's just nice to get to a safer position, really.
Lofty said somebody had 150 quid on it at 25-1 on course.
Yeah, 150 each way. That's a nice old bet, isn't it? So,
yeah, back in the day,
he should have affordability checked them, got them to produce documents, gone home, got their passport, and by that time the race had been off.
Yeah, they probably think he's written it in.
Yes, not one in for the tax man.
No, right. So Andrew, today, what I've asked you to do is a bit different because you've been talking to the converted in previous episodes. So we're on number 11 now. You've been talking in depth about sort of various systems and things that you look at to find your winners. So what I suggested to you was a nice and easy one for people that maybe aren't sort of au fait with the form book or wouldn't like to admit that they don't really know where to start. I said to you, how about telling us the basics where you open the paper, there's a race or there's a card, you've got to go through it. Where do you start? Now,
yeah, you said also sort of do it in the style of if you were like when I used to write spotlights for the Racing Post, you're writing a comment and assessing the chance of every single horse, and then eventually coming up with a betting forecast and a selection.
Yeah, I thought this would just be a walk in the park, so you could just sit there and tell us what you do. But you said, well, I've not even printed it out today because I think my printer would probably overheat with the amount of work you put in. But it is all on my website, which is up there. If you want to read all of what Andrew's about to tell us and digest it, yourself with all the figures and the charts and stuff. So, Andrew, this is back to basics. Like we just said, we've opened the paper. Your task is to go through a card or a race. Where do you start? Because I'm interested to know. There's so many places you can start, I suppose. So where do you start?
Yeah, you were sort of particularly interested in jumps racing, weren't you? Because obviously you're going to be doing the boxes at Exeter and in Wincanton as well. Is that right this season?
I think Wincanton might be dubious, but Exeter definitely. I've got Exeter, yeah, and I just, I'm just interested to get more in depth into how you do it. I mean, I think most people would probably just scan down through, look for a course and distance winner, see who the top jockey and trainer is, the sort of basic-y stuff. But I mean, as we're about to find out, you go a lot more in depth than that.
Yeah, we've chosen the 6:30 at Sedgefield on Thursday night. Now, we don't have the final declarations. Those won't be available till about 10:30 or 11 o'clock today. That's Tuesday, the 2nd of September. So we'll probably come back and revisit this, and I'll sort of send you some updated bits and pieces you can add to the bottom of the article on the website if you've got time to put those in. I know you're at late hour on Thursday, so you're going to be very busy. but I'll try and get that to you today or tomorrow. So yeah, this is a well, 2 mile, 3 and a bit furlong handicap chase. Run at Sedgefield, class 4, naught for horses rated 0 to 110. And at the moment, there's 12 runners. And no, I've started at the top of the weights and worked down. I don't always do that, particularly with handicaps. It's quite, because what tends to happen, obviously, you know, the better horses are at the top of the weights. You end up sort of starting with you know, the top weight and being and perhaps sort of end up with a selection that's nearer the head of the weights. Whereas if you sort of start at the bottom with the poorer horses and sort of try to make cases or find out the positives and negatives for those first of all, you might come up with some more interesting selections. That's good advice with the place pot, because most punters, when they're doing their place pot, they start at the top and work down. And if you look at your place pot final selections, if you've got lots of number ones in there, you probably don't want to be putting the bet on, because you're probably not getting much value. If you had 3 8-1 co-favourites in a Royal Ascot, a 20-runner Royal Ascot handicap, and there were numbers 1, 3, and 17 on the race card, I can pretty much guarantee that horse number 17 would have far less units going on it in the place spot than numbers 1 and 3. So yeah, but I started with Obsessed for You, Jamie Snowden's runner. A quick overview first of all of the course and distance. Sedgefield's chase course claims a very low percentage of fallers. I haven't got my stats to hand, but a friend of mine did some work on this sort of very recently, and showing the percentage of fallers by tracks. And it's something you need to do regularly as a punter, because over time, as a general rule, the fences have gotten easier as you know, courses have been instructed to you know, oh, fallers look bad, we don't want horses sort of tipping up on TV. So when you're rebuilding the fences, maybe don't make them quite so stiff and don't have the birch quite so thick at the top of the fences. And it's amazing how some of these have declined over the years. But there's also 1 or 2 that are stiffer than you think. Ludlow, for example, is it's got very stiff fences. And you find that you can make money by backing chase fallers at Ludlow when they turn up at the track with easier fences next time. And conversely, if you back a last time out winner from somewhere like Sedgefield and then switches to Ludlow, you probably don't want to be on. Now this, so yeah, low percentage of fallers. This course distance is pretty kind of front runners as well. If you knew pre-race what was going to make the running over this course and distance in the last 10 years, you'd have found 22 winners from 71 bets, made a profit of over 41 quid. And another thing to watch out with at Sedgefield, perhaps more so over hurdles than over fences, but is when it gets soft, the inside of the track can get cut up, particularly in the later races, and you can be racing on the swamp on the inside, and those horses who challenge late and wide often win. What we don't know at this stage is the going. Now, at the time of recording, the official going is good to firm in places. Brackets watering, brackets light rain on race day. So that's the kind of like, well, it could toss a coin in the air. It could be anything. Now, if you look at the xcweather.co.uk forecast for Sedgefield, it's saying tomorrow morning, Wednesday, there could be 10 mil of rain. So we saw what that amount did to Sandown last weekend, and so we could be looking at much softer ground than you'd expect for summer jumping. So this is a good race to have a look at, because what you'll find is when it turns good to soft or softer over summer jumps, in a summer jumps race, you might get sort of horses going in there with a string of ones next to their name, but they've been doing that on good to firm or good ground, and they're going to struggle on the slower conditions. So that brings us back to Obsessed with You. Top of the weights, going to carry 12 stone 2 if she takes her chance. And the key word there is her, because obviously she's a mare. And one thing I find, particularly over fences with mares, is that they often run well against their own sex, but when they're asked to take on geldings, they struggle. They're often facing bigger fields, running at a faster pace, running against physically more imposing horses who might sort of bully them out of position at a fence. And if you look at Obsessed with You, she's had 4 runs over fences, 2 against the boys. She's got finished a 19-length last of 4 and a 23-length third of 6. Both times she was the 5-4 favourite. She had 2 runs over fences against mares. She's won them both. So for me, my first thought is I'd be looking to sort of take her on running against the boys now, and it's also softer ground that she's encountered before as well. Throwing the distance as well. It's funny because you get 2 mile chases. Some chases now, like Sandown, the 2 mile trip has been remeasured. It's more like 1 mile 7 when Canton's like that as well. You can then stretch it to sort of, sort of two. You sort of, the temptation is to group everything together into 2 miles. But a horse who is running over 1 mile 7 at Wincanton on a sharp track, or 2 miles 1.5 furlongs up a hill at another track, that's quite a different test in terms of the amount of time you're going to be racing. And this is 2 miles 3 and a bit. So a lot of these horses running in this race are 2 milers who are stepping up. Now, distance-wise, Obsessed with You is okay. She's won over sort of 2 miles 4.5 furlongs at Bangor, so I won't worry about the trip. But the going and the fact that she's not taking on her own sex might be against her. Next up, Jet of Dreams. This is trained by Warren Greatrex. So immediately, you're sort of thinking of a sort of southern-based yard heading north. That might be an angle. This is a point-to-point winner who's won 4 times under rules, all over 2 miles to 2.25 miles on officially good or faster going. One of those wins came here at Sedgefield on September the 23rd of last year. So already you've got ticks in a couple of boxes. This is a horse who's won at the track before. This is a horse who's won in September before. As I was talking about earlier with Yorkshire Lady, I'm a sort of strong believer in horses running well at the same time of year again and again. It's often discussed when it comes to race analysis. That and the size of the field are the 2 angles that I like to concentrate on when profiling a horse, because it's often overlooked. Now, you look at the Jet of Dreams record on the going. The official going: 3 wins on good ground, 1 on good to firm, 0 from 7 on good to soft or softer. Using Proform, I then look at what they call actual going, which is based on Proform's going allowance. Officially good ground could mean anything. It could mean good to firm. It could mean soft. You know what clerks of the courses are like. They want to try to appeal to everybody to keep the numbers up, so they get more money for the media rights when they get a field of 9 or more runners, whatever the cutoff is. So I cross-reference that with Proform's going verdict. One of those, again, they agree that all the wins came on good or faster ground, but they've got one of them coming on firm, 2 of them coming on good to firm, and only 1 from 10 on good. So I think if the ground does turn good to soft or softer, which is likely, I think Jet of Dreams, despite being a course winner, could struggle with the emphasis being more on stamina. So I've got a sort of mental pecking order going on at the moment. So I'll sort of even though I don't like Obsessed with You, I'll have Jet of Dreams below Obsessed with You, in my sort of pecking order at the moment. So next on the weights, moving down, is Mood of the Moment, trained by David Thompson. Now, this is a multiple point-to-point winner who's scored 3 times in the final quarter of 2024, but that was from Matt Shepherd. All those wins come in right-handed on good ground. He has got bits of form left-handed on soft ground at the likes of Worcester, but because he's changed yards, you've got to sort of be thinking, should I only consider the form he's had for his current yard? Now, he's joined a fairly small yard, a yard not associated with having loads of winners. And on his stable debut, what did he do? He finished a 40 to 1/8 of 9. I immediately, he jumped poorly that day. He's gone from Uttox to Sedgefield, slightly easier fences, but not a huge difference. And so I'm thinking, well, he's probably going to struggle again. It's the kind of horse I wouldn't be interested in backing until he shows something for his new yard. Next up, Dream Jet, trimmed by Brian Ellison. Now, if you go, one of the things I do, I use the Racing Post website to sort of try and quickly gauge a horse's pattern by, if you can sort by sort of all the various categories. They've got POS, which stands for finishing position. If you click on that, it orders like the wins first, then the second places, and the thirds. And if you do that, you look at the wins. They've all come on officially good ground. The last 2 of them over the 1.5-mile trip at Hexham. I had a look at, ordered his form by course name to see if he'd run at Sedgefield before. And you look at that, he has. He's had 3 goes here, 33 lengths, 6 and a handicap hurdle, when a well-backed 16 to 5 shot. I know that's a silly price. 5th of 11 when 7 to 1, and 3rd of 5 when the 13 to 8 favourite. That's a small sample size, 3 runs, but it's a bit of a worry that he's underperformed in relation to his price every time he's run at Sedgefield in his career. Now, his latest 4th at Market Raisin offers a bit of encouragement. Possibly did a bit too much too soon. He was up with the pace. The winner and 3rd came from the rear. The runner-up, Prospect House, who did best of the prominent races, only went down narrowly at Cartmel next time when not looking in love with the track. I think sort of hanging wide off the bends. But again, this is one where the official going doesn't always sort of tell you everything. If you look at his form by official going, he's had 4 wins on good, and the rest of his runs have come on good to soft or soft or heavy. So it looks as though he's avoided firm ground, good to firm ground throughout his career. However, if you use Proform again to break it down by what they call their actual going, it's a completely different story. Two of his wins have come on firm, not even officially good ground, but Proform rated as firm. Another win came on good to firm, and only 1 win from 8 starts came on good. Every time he's had genuine good to soft or softer, he's got beaten. So, and his percentage of rivals beaten, which is sort of how many of his opposition he saw off, in those defeats on good to soft or soft, was pretty low. So he wasn't just beaten, into 2nd or 3rd. He was beaten a long way, but most of the time. So my instinct then is to oppose him based on the course. 0 from 3 here. The trip as well is another thing I haven't mentioned. Is a sort of last 2 wins over trips shy of 2 miles, now going 2 miles 3, and the likely going, which I'm sort of predicting is going to be sort of good to soft. Next up, we got 10-year-old Lurmu's Legend. He seems to be around forever. Very consistent. I'm just reading my notes. He pulled up at Foss in mid-April on the back of a 6 mop layoff. That could be 6 months. But since returning from that break, he's had 5 runs, 4 seconds, and a win. Coming by 9.5 lengths at Market Raisin. However, he's been off the track since July. We've hit September now, and I'd worry about him holding his form at this time of year. Again, using Proform, has split his record by month. He's got a lot. 7 of his 8 wins have come between May and July. He's got a very high percentage of rivals beaten in those months. 83, 73, and 67%. As soon as you get to September, that drops off, and it drops off gradually from August through to March. That he just, he tends to peak in high summer on fast ground, and then goes off the boil. And despite the fact he's won last time out, I'm just worried now that on ground that's going to be softer than ideal, he's going to not hold his form. So he's the kind of horse that might be underpriced. I've not seen any prices for this yet, but lazy odds compilers or the algorithm they'll use will just look at the last time out form figure, see a 1 preceded by a host of runner-up efforts, and think he's got to be at the head of the market. This is the kind of horse that could be priced up at 7 to 2 or 4 to 1 by Bet365 the night before when they open up. That will be 8 to 1 in the morning and go off at 12 to 1 or even bigger. Next up, Scarlet Otara. This is another mare, as the name suggests. She's won 3 times in mares only company of hurdles, but her chase record is PPP. So again, you look at this and you're thinking it's quite strange that they're not returning her to hurdles. So 3 chase runs, pulled up, stopped quickly, vets had nothing to report, pulled up, didn't always jump with fluency. Jockey said mare was reluctant to race. So now how many winners have you trained, Simon? But when you've seen your mare, who's won 3 times over hurdles last year, has now had 2 runs over fences, has jumped poorly both times, pulled up both times, and seemed reluctant to race last time. So what do you do next time? You go over fences again. Midfield, not fluent, lost position, never travelling, right? And then trainer's rep said mare will likely have a break after today. So those 3 runs came in June, July. She's had a break. But I'm thinking, what why the devil are they still running her over fences? Now, the interesting angle here is that they've taken the headgear. I think that they're taking the headgear. No, we haven't. No, because we haven't got the final decks. We don't know what headgear she's wearing. But those 3 runs over fences that came in a first time hood, first time cheek pieces, second time cheek pieces. The wins over hurdles came without headgear. So will they take the headgear off? Will that bring about improvement? Why are they persevering over fences when she clearly doesn't seem to be in love with them? She's got 4 entries, not just at Sedgefield on Thursday. She's entered at Bangor on Friday, Worcester on Friday, and Fontwell on Sunday. So she's the first instinct sort of take her on, but now you think, well, hang on a minute. If they take the headgear off, the fact that they're still persevering over fences could be make her sort of semi-interesting, particularly if the market overreacts. Because if you're pricing this up and you haven't got much time on your hands, you look chase record PPP 25 to 1, but then you think, well, hang on a minute. If they take the headgear off, I'd be thinking a bit more careful about that one. So I've written in the piece that I'm happy to take her on, and I sort of generally am. But I'm just at the back of my mind, having sort of slept on it, I'm now thinking if the headgear comes off, she might be semi-interesting. It's kind of the thing is, if you're a pro punter who just dutching horses on Betfair, betting sort of 3 or 4 in a race, you might want to make sure you don't lose if she wins. Just have a stake saver. Next up, we're number 7 on the race card now. This is Del Potro, a 5-year-old. So that immediately is interesting because he's the youngest horse in the race, and as a general rule, younger horses do better than the veterans. Charlie Longston is a trainer I like for this time of year as well. I wrote a system many years ago in Raceform Update about backing his horses blind in September. Since then, I've changed that to sort of 1st of June to the 30th of September. At a smaller yard, he tries to make hay when the sun shines, and the likes of Paul Nicholls and Nicky Henderson aren't having many runners. So during his career, he's 154 from 778, 20% strike rate almost in the June to September period. Profit of almost 100 quid to a £1 level stake at SP, a lot more at Betfair SP, 226 quid. Now this one's won twice in the French provinces, broke his duck for his current yard over 2 miles here at Sedgefield back in May, then pulled up at the same trip at Southwell. I haven't gone into it, but Southwell's a funny track where I'm often inclined to forgive a poor run, more so over hurdles perhaps, with those fixed brush style hurdles. His course win came in a weak race. He made all, 2 fences were omitted. But his other course run saw him trade at 2.7 in running from a Betfair SP of just over 9 to 2. So immediately I'm thinking from a trading angle, Del Potro is likely to try and make the running. He's raced here twice before. One of them he's won, the other one he's traded a lot shorter than his SP in the run. So I'm thinking he might be a good back to lay, despite the stamina doubt over this longer trip. So next up, Limerick. And again, when you're pricing a race, so when you're doing it for the Racing Post, you might make front runners. Again, because if you understood the betting market and the exchanges, when I was sort of, go back to 2010 to 2015, when I was doing a lot of Racing Post spotlight work, I might shorten up a front runner at somewhere like Stratford, because I know that just before the off, they're going to be milling around at the start. This one's going to be looking like it's going to poach a lead of sort of 2 or 3 lengths and be well in front jumping the first, and they'll other people will see that, and the SP will shorten as a result because there'll be money on the exchanges forcing a move. Now, next down the list, number 8, Limerick Leader. This one's a dream. You can short again, use the Racing Post site. You can just sort the horse's form by price. And what you notice about this one, the 3 wins have all come when starting his SP favourite. The last 2 of them when making all. So again, using Proform, I had a look at his record by SP rank. 1 being favourite, 2 being second favourite, etc. 3 wins from 9 starts when favourite. When he's not started favourite, he's got beaten every single time, totting it up 0 from 24. So sort of money's certainly talked when Limerick Leaders won. He won in Class 5 company in late June. Since then, he's had 2 runs, both in Class 4. Both times he's been beaten. But he did finish second after making the running. So my notes for him are sort of vulnerable of taking on for the lead, possible back to lay if Del Potro doesn't run. trip and ground, not a problem if it turns softer. So Limerick Leader's got the stamina, which a lot of these haven't. He's a front runner, a running style that he said is effective over this course and distance. At the moment, we've got Del Potro and Limerick Leader, two out and out front runners. So if they both line up, you might be inclined to take on the pair, or just wait and play the race in running, see if one of them gets a soft lead, the other one decides to sit back. But if only one of them runs, you're immediately thinking, that's perhaps one to have on my side because it could get a soft lead. Next up, number 9, too cool for Shrewl. I keep wanting to say too cool for school. This one made a winning chase debut at Cheltenham during Cheltenham week this year, followed up 6 days later in a handicap hurdle at Bangor over this trip of 2 miles, 3 and a bit furlongs. Then got well beaten at Bangor back over fences next time. But the third run in relatively quick succession was blamed. It was a 51 length last of 5 that day. He's been freshened up since, coming off the back of a 145-day break. Now the Proform, I haven't talked about speed figures yet because I haven't got the final makeup of the field. But I did have a look at a few of them. The Proform speed figure of 66 clocked for that market raisin win was useful for a chase debutant. I mean, if you look at 2 of the others, Limerick Leader's best chase figure is 68. Obsessed with Views is 69. But they've both had multiple runs over fences. The Too Cool for Sure got 66 on his chase debut. Normal improvement from that. You think he'd be capable of running a figure in the 70s. So he's one that I'm thinking, I want to have on my side potentially. Next up, number 10 on the race card. This is Mare Kingston, 5 race maiden in points, 3 race maiden over hurdles, 0 from 8 career, loads of sort of heavy defeats in that. But then, of course, this on face value that looks like one to oppose. But of course, this is chase debut, and who trains? Sam England. So again, one thing you can do quite easily using Proform software, Raceform Interactive. I know you've got that. Is just do a query, which is what happens when certain trainers run a horse over fences for the first time. And Sam England does pretty well. 11 winners from 55. Profit of £19, 13 pence to £1 stake at SP. Excuse me, I'm about to say. And that's my air conditioning doing that. Now, the last 2 chase debutants, handicap chase debutants, I should say, they could have gone straight to fences over hurdles. They might have run in a non-handicap chase before. The last 2 she's run at Sedgefield have both won, 3-1 and 11-4. So if I was writing a Racing Post spotlight for this race, my cop-out comment would be, one to watch closely in the betting, or watch the market. Interesting if the money arrives, or something like that. So the fact that this one ran several times in point to point suggests that when they got him, the plan was to, run him over fences. He's only a 6-year-old. He's got age on his side. He's from a shrewd outfit who does well with chase debutants in handicap company. So maybe we should just, keep an eye on that one. It's the kind of one that will just get priced up on what it did over hurdles last time. Again, this is the lazy pricing where you can take advantage. This might be sort of 25-1, 20-1 with Bet365 the night before, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon the day before, and you think, well, I'll take a chance at that. I'm a £4 on to win 100. I'll have 25 tenors or whatever, and then next day you could be looking at a horse at half those odds or even shorter. Next up, Rory's Story. His favourite at Cartmel last time, 11-4, could only finish a 13-length third, and is up in trip and class. However, she was best of the closers that day at Cartmel. Cartmel can be a bit of a dog track like Stratford, and that you get going on the front end, it can be hard to pull them back. You often see these races where the winner makes all, the second is in second place throughout, and the third, who's beaten sort of 10 to 20 lengths but came from off the pace, is the horse that you want to be with next time. That could be the case with Rory's Story here. The worry is, though, that she is up in trip, and you look at her record over longer trips previously, she has struggled. So although I think there was more promise in that Cartmel run last time than her price suggested, I just think if the rain arrives, this trip could stretch her. Finally, we've got Could Be a Weapon. Poor strike rate, 1 from 24. That was an 11-8 favourite for a Class 5 novice handicap hurdle at Worcester almost 3 years ago. He's winless in 6 goes for Sam England, but he has placed in 3 of them, twice finishing second. So 1 from 24 looks bad, but then let's just look at the form for the current yard. 3 places from 6 starts, 2 second places. cope with the ground, cope with the trip. It's one of these ones that if you're playing exotics, you might be thinking, well, I want to do an exacta with this one to finish second, or you can play with the firms that offer that bet to finish exactly second. There's some lovely horses on the flat who've got a reputation for finishing second. They're often overpriced in those markets, like Existent for Stuart Williams, who had a string of seconds to his name earlier in the season. So could be a weapon. It's the kind of horse that if I was doing the card, I wouldn't have value to lay, pick, chance, careful. I'd just have a dot, which was I'd be neutral about. It's the kind of horse that's difficult as a bookmaker because you think probably won't win, but might be there in contention 2 out and finishing second or third. So you wouldn't want to lay the place part of the bet necessarily. You might want to lay the win part. So I'm sort of giving could be a weapon a place chance at this stage. So that's how I sort of looked at it so far. Obviously, this is not the final lineup, and we don't know the going, we don't know the pace of the race. But at the moment, I'm looking if one of Del Potro or Limerick Leader runs, I want to back those to trade in running. 2 called for Shrewdest, the one who blew out at Bangor last time, but has been rested for 145 days since and clocked a fair speed figure on his chase debut. We're winning at Market Race, and he's one that I've got as a potential bet. And I'm looking at Mare Kingston as one to be with if the money arrives. So it's the kind of one that, say you were doing a box talk at Sedgefield, like Tomo was famous for doing, before hot-footing it to Chelmsford to work at an evening meeting, you'd have that information. You'd know what the going was. You'd know what the likely pace of the race was, and you'd know whether there'd been money for Mare Kingston. So if you rocked up here and Mare Kingston was 6-1 from 16-1, you'd probably want to be sort of making that your selection in the race, and then you'll know whether there's been drifts on the other ones. You might want to put up. The Sam England 1-2 Mare Kingston could be a weapon as a potential forecast if you're looking for a sort of payoff. It could be 50-1 or bigger. But that's where I've got to so far with this race.
Right, Andrew, I've got a few questions here. Can I interject? It's been absolutely fascinating. I've titled this Basics, but it's far from basics. I mean, you've gone, really in depth with this. There's a few questions. And are you doing it this early for the benefit of this recording, or would it normally be beneficial to you to look at them before they've actually declared?
I would not normally do this for the 6:30 at Sedgefield. I mean, this is a race I wouldn't look at anyway because I'll be concentrating on the flat at this stage of the year. But I would do this kind of analysis for races on Saturday, for example, because for GG's weekend watch, we preview all the live televised events on a Saturday. Now there could be 10 of those, and if you don't get the decks to 11 o'clock on Thursday, we're recording at 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, so you've only got 3 hours to look at, say, 10 races. You can't do them properly. So from Monday afternoon, when the 5-day decks come out, I'll start having a look at some of the bigger races, and again, I'd rarely bet on them at those stages, but there might be the occasion when I think, oh, look at that, that's the ground's good, watered, with a hell of a lot of rain forecast. I might take a punt that is going to turn soft or heavy and back the 2 or 3 horses that I know are going to relish those conditions, handle those conditions, I should say, rather than relish. And and maybe the current 12 runners will cut up to 6 runners, and I'll be on 12-1 about a 4-1 shot. Right. But really, it's just so I've got a bit of advanced work done. I don't have to rush it in a 3-hour window on Thursday.
Right. Well, the other thing is I've made notes here, so I know you have time pressure. So I want to ask you about these. They've got the Proform actual going. Now, is that unique to Proform?
Yeah. I mean, so for example, when I'm on the system builder on Proform, you click on a course, and it's got actual goings, heavy, slow, soft, good to soft, and then official goings. Now, they've also got their going adjustment, so I can sort by that, and that gives a figure for every single going. So, for example, they will have what they call they won't just call it heavy; they'll call it bottomless, very heavy, extremely heavy, and they'll give it a number. So if it's -12, it's bottomless. If it's -5, it might be very heavy. I'm just trying to find that little bit of it at the moment. Yeah. -15 or worse, extremely bottomless. -12 to -14.99 bottomless. And now their descriptions then are for extremely bottomless, bottomless, extremely heavy, very heavy, heavy. So they break heavy ground down into 5 different things, rather than lump everything together as heavy. So, for example, what will happen as well, like on the Proform forum, is that when there's very deep ground somewhere, some kind soul after 2 races might give their view of the going adjustment. Or Simon Walton, who runs Proform, might do it. He might say, "I've got it down as like -13.5, which is bottomless." You can then use the Proform race cards to filter by bottomless going, speed figures on form figures on bottomless going for every horse. And then, particularly if they're calling it soft, good to soft in places, or soft, heavy in places, when you know that it's like the Somme. Younger viewers, ask your parents, and so then all of a sudden you've got a march on the rest of the people who are going on the rest of the punters are going on the official verdict. You're thinking, well, if these haven't got form on extremely bottomless and bottomless going previously, then they're probably going to they're going to struggle. So that's one of the advantages of Proform for that. So yeah, they'll just give a number. They'll give the going a number, a going adjustment, they call it.
I wonder why racing can't just subscribe to Proform and update their going in the official form book.
Yeah,
helpful to everybody, wouldn't it? Really.
Yeah, it would be handy, wouldn't it? A bit less.
But it's not. It's better for you if people don't know, isn't it?
Yeah. I know one or two professional punters who ignore going, and I think, yeah, I can. It's like some of them, will ignore the draw, and I know one who ignores the going because, and you think of like how easy that would make life for someone like Tony Calvin and his weather reports and the constant to-ing and froing and trying to predict how much water they put on, how much rainfall they're going to get, what effect the drying wind's going to have on it, and all this kind of stuff. And are there tyre tracks we need to be in? Are there rail movements? So there's so much that sort of goes into it, and it must be a lot easier to sleep if you ignore the going, but I don't.
Somebody like Barry Beasley told me that is the most important factor when analysing a race. So I mean, obviously people look at it in a different way, don't they?
I feel better now about my subscriptions to multiple weather sites.
The interesting thing about the mares, when you said sometimes they feel bullied out by the boys, I mean, is that something you've just gained from years of experience, or is that a stat that you can find? Is that sort of thing what you can only learn from somebody?
Yeah, I could do a query to look at handicap chases, mares running in handicap chases split by mares only company or open company. I've not done that, but that's a good idea for a future one of these videos. But there's certain.
Yeah, sorry, mate. The other thing I was going to say is what you said about your mate has been doing analysis on courses and how many fallers, etc. So is that something that's not in the public domain as well? Is that something that's got to, somebody's had to actually do the yards and work that out?
Yeah, and it's something I used to do every year for my trend horses for the jumps book. So I would have an updated list of percentage of fallers. Now, the other thing is it's not an exact science as well, because how do you cope with unseated riders? Because you might get an unseated rider might be whipped round an unseated rider start, or stumbled an unseated rider flat in between fences. That's nothing to do with the difficulty of the fences, but you also get mistake an unseated rider, or hit third unseated soon after, or something like that. You might get hampered an unseated rider. So I did a sort of, I looked at it in quite sort of in a lot of detail at one stage, but then I settled on a very sort of arbitrary 50% of unseats I put down to the fences, and 50% of unseats I put down to being hampered, slipping up, stumbling, and other factors. So ran out and unseated or something like that. So so I would have percentage of fallers and 50% of the unseats, and I'd sort of lump all those together and give a figure. And I'd be looking then, when I was analysing a race, for horses who'd won on an easy. perhaps been beaten twice on tracks with difficult fences, hitting a couple, finishing third and fourth, going to somewhere like Sedgefield, winning, and then going back to a Ludlow or a Plumpton or somewhere with trickier fences, and then wanting to take them on at a short price because the market had overreacted to that easy fence. So that's something there's probably stuff. I mean, I think it was Paul Fitzgerald who did it. He's on the Proform forum. He's an excellent analyst, and he did a series of articles for Proform, free articles. If you Googled, you'd probably find. So there are lists there of things like that. So if you break it down to, I don't know, sort of like above 5% and below 5%, and then look at horses when they're switching from one to another. So I'm just going to. Yeah, there is. Yeah, here you go. If you, I mean, I've Googled, sort of fences, faller stats, Proform. There is an article on the Proform website, free article to read, which is April the 1st, 2004. So not by Paul Fitzgerald, Richard Slater. Apologies, Richard. And this is a very in-depth, good article. It's completely free to read. You don't need a subscription or anything like that. And and he's lumped unseats and fallers together. Percentage of fell, unseated, and chase races by track since 2017. Now, the first thing I'm going to read. Sorry, this has gone on a bit longer than you perhaps wanted.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating.
But I've just had a message from my wife saying I don't need to help get the kids ready to go to school and preschool, so we can go on a bit longer. Yeah, so you look at I'll give you the top sort of several percentage faller tracks, and you tell me what you notice. Aintree Grand National, Leopardstown, Punchestown, Listowel, Sligo, Thurles, Naas, Killarney, Fakenham.
The Irish tracks haven't got the memo, have they? About making the fences
right.
easy.
So they've decided that jumps racing is jumps racing. We shouldn't pander to softening the fences to make less fallers. So was it like, or sort of like 7 of the top 8 are Irish. The other one is Aintree Grand National, and that's in decline as well. But then you look at the non-Grand National top 3 British tracks with percentage of fallers: Fakenham, Plumpton, Ludlow. Sort of like 9.46, 9.35, 9.1%. And then you go down to the others. Sedgefield was actually higher than it has been, 5.2. And I remember many years ago, Nick Morden wrote something about Sedgefield's fences, claiming a lower percentage of fallers than some tracks hurdle courses. But it's like Cartmel 3.4%. So if you're seeing horses who've previously struggled at the likes of your Fakenhams, your Plumptons, your Ludlows, who've then been winning at Warwick, Worcester, Cartmel, Carlisle, heading back to a track with harder fences, then that's something. That's an angle that if you read, if you people analysing a race, TV pundits, radio, written, I've never seen anybody or heard anybody mention the exact percentage of fallers at a track. They might say, "Oh, these fences take some jumping," but they won't back that up with any hard stats. Or they might have taken some jumping when the ex-jockey pundit or whoever was riding over them 20 years ago. But since then, the modifications have changed the game completely, and what they're telling you is no longer correct.
Excellent. Well, Andrew, it's the longest one we've done so far. I think we better draw it to a close there.
Like we haven't even got a selection of the final field yet.
You can have a selection. People can look at, because obviously we don't even know what's running yet. People can look at all your workings on the website up there. If you like this, Andrew's analysis, which I found absolutely fascinating, the way he thinks, please like and subscribe for more. Keeps us. What
I've done, Simon, I've just copied you a link to that free fence difficulty article on Proform from last year. Maybe you can put that in the notes as well. And
I'll add it to it before this goes up.
Cool.
Brilliant. That's fantastic, Andrew. Thank you very much. Andrew, of course, writes gg.co.uk. The tote, still, you do column for?
Yeah, and yeah, Racing and Football Outlook. If
Racing
you're
Football Outlook.
inclined to go
Still
to your
buy it,
newsagents, actually buy a newspaper, old school. If you're a Racing Post subscriber, because you do get the RFO and the Weekender online free to read as part of your subscription package.
and other newspapers aren't available. So
No, true.
there you go. Okay, mate. Well, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to get this
Pleasure.
stuck up, and this will be watching that race with great interest.
Yeah. Cheers. Onwards and upwards. Let's hope we can find the winner.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Cheers, Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Hello everyone, just a quick one. If you have enjoyed these videos and are enjoying these videos, can you please like and subscribe to my channel? Thanks very much.